So in this video, let's take a look at really what it means to simplify an expression. And for that, let's begin by reviewing or recalling our order of operations. So first of all, we had the parentheses. Now the parentheses were really there as grouping symbols. So if somebody specifically wants to say, I want you to do this operation first, that's what the parentheses are there for, or the grouping symbols. That's what they're there for. The second step in the order of operations is to evaluate any exponents. Then coming up with the third step is multiplication and division. Now multiplication and division, we'll kind of do those on the same step, but we'll do them from left to right, and that's kind of the important thing to remember. So if we've got the operation of multiplication and division together in the expression, we want to do the one on the left first and then work our way over to the right. And finally, for our last step, we've got addition and subtraction. And again, addition and subtraction we will do in the same step, but we will also do that again left to right. So let's consider the expression 3x plus 4x. Now we can ask ourselves the question, if we put in a value for x, how many operations would it actually take to evaluate that? Now notice here that I said operations and not steps. We can do several steps kind of at one time, but operations, that's a little bit more specific. So we can say how many operations does it actually take to evaluate this expression? And so what we can say is, well, let's let x equal to 2. And if x is equal to 2, we take our expression 3x plus 4x, plugging 2 in, and we're going to get 3 times 2 plus 4 times 2. Now, according to our order of operations, what we would do first is the multiplications from left to right. And so 3 times 2 is going to give us 6, and 4 times 2 is going to give us 8. And so that actually gives us 2 multiplications. So now that we've got 6 plus 8, we've got one more operation to do. So that gives us 14, and that gives us one operation of addition. So we've got 2 multiplications and 1 addition, which gives us a grand total of 3 operations to evaluate this one expression 3x plus 4x. So now I actually come to the notion of simplifying an expression. So that's really using our properties of the real numbers to reduce the number of operations that it actually takes to evaluate an expression and to do an evaluation. And so what we had in our previous problem, we had 3x plus 4x. Now we can apply the distributive property to make this 3 plus 4 times x. Now the 3 plus 4 we can put together to make 7x. So really this is just combining these like terms. So 3x and 4x are like terms. We can combine them. 3 plus 4 gives us 7x. So now once we have this rewritten expression, we can say how many operations are necessary to evaluate this new expression. So again, if we let x equal to 2, we get a pretty dramatic difference in how we evaluate things. So if we kind of look at what happens on the first case, before we did any simplification to it, we had 3x plus 4x, we had 2 multiplications, the 3 times 2 and the 4 times 2, then we had 1 addition with the 6 plus 8 to get our answer of 14. Now after we use our properties, after we use the distributive property to combine like terms, we just have 7x. Well, if we put 2 in for x, 7 times 2, we've got 1 multiplication to still get our answer of 14. And so what has actually happened in that case, we've gone from 3 operations down to 1 operation, and sure enough, that is definitely what we mean by our instructions are simplified. Now, in some cases, we can actually get a greater amount of simplification than in others. And to see kind of that's going to be true, consider this example. So suppose we need to simplify 8 plus 3 times the quantity x minus 4. Now, one question that we can ask ourselves is how many operations are actually involved in evaluating this expression? Well, if we kind of diagram it out a little bit, what we see here is that we have the operation of multiplication with the 3 multiplying the parentheses. We've got the operation of subtraction here with the x minus 4. We've got the operation of addition here with 8 plus everything that we evaluate back here. And so in total, we've got 3 operations to evaluate this expression. So again, if we use our properties of the real numbers, we begin by applying the distributive property. So we can distribute our 3 to the x and the 4. So we have 8 plus 3 times x minus 3 times 4. Now, what that gives us from there is that we have a couple of like terms. And our like terms are really given by the 8 and the 12. So those are going to be like terms. So we can put those like terms together so that we can see that we've got an 8 minus 12 is going to give us our 8 minus 12 and then plus our 3x on the end. So the 8 minus 12, we put that together, and that's going to give us a negative 4 plus a 3x. So now if we go through and we look and see, all right, how many operations do we have in this case? Well, we've got 1 operation of addition and 1 operation of multiplication. And so in total, we've got 2 operations for our final simplified version. Now, some people may look at this and say, oh, wait, well, what about this operation of subtraction out in front? That's not really the operation. That's really the number negative 4 that we are actually adding to our 3x. So this is not really an operation. This is a number in and of itself. We've got a negative 4 there. And so in the end, we only have 2 operations. We've got our addition and we've got our multiplication. So now let's look at one more example to kind of see that it really doesn't take very many expressions to really increase the number of operations that we're going to have. And so in this case, let's look at simplifying the expression 2 times the quantity 3x plus 4 plus 5 times the quantity 6x plus 7. So again, we kind of look at this and say, all right, so on the surface, how many operations do we have for this particular expression? Well, going through and writing everything out, kind of reading this in the correct way, we see that we've got the operation of multiplication here. We've got an operation of multiplication here with the 3 and the x. We've got the operation of addition here with the 3x plus the 4. We've got another operation of addition here, a multiplication operation from 5 times this set of parentheses, everything in this set of parentheses. We've got an operation of multiplication in the 6 times the x, and then we finally got an operation of addition in the 6x plus the 7. And so kind of grand totaling those up, what we find is that we've got 4 multiplications and 3 additions, so we've really got a total of 7 operations in this particular expression. And so if we kind of do our simplification now, we start with 2 times this quantity 3x plus 4 and 5 times the quantity 6x plus 7. So the first thing that we're going to do is to apply the distributive property. And so we distribute the 2 across the first set of parentheses and the 5 across the second set of parentheses. And so what that's going to give us is the 2 times the quantity 3x plus 2 times the 4, the 5 times the 6x, and the 5 times the 7. Now, what that simplifies to, whenever we put everything together, we've got 2 times the 3x to give us 6x, 2 times 4 to give us 8, 5 times 6x to give us 30x, and 5 times 7 to give us 35. Now, from this expression, we actually have two sets of like terms. So those two sets of like terms that we have are the 6x and the 30x, because both of those have a single x multiplying them. And then the other set of like terms are the 8 and the 35, because those are just numbers and they don't have any x's on them at all. And so we can rearrange those to put the like terms together. So we've got our 6x and our 30x, our 8 and our 35. So that, again, using the distributive property for the 6x and the 30x, we've got 6 plus 30 times x. The 8 plus 35 is going to give us 43. And so we can put the 6 and the 30 together to give us a final answer of 36x plus 43. Now, if we kind of look at the operations from there, we see that we've got an operation of multiplication here, we've got an operation of addition here, and so we've actually gone from a total of 7 operations down to a total of only 2 operations. And so that's a pretty dramatic reduction, and so we definitely have simplified this expression. And so I hope that this has kind of been a little bit of an introduction to really what we mean when we're saying that we are simplifying expressions. We're really going from reducing the number of operations that we have using our properties of the real numbers, our commutative properties, our associative properties, our distributive properties, our inverse properties, our identity properties. We're using all of those properties that we've talked about before in other videos and as kind of the rules of the game to simplify things down, to be able to simplify our expressions to reduce the number of operations that we need. And so that's really the heart of kind of the heart of algebra. We're taking things apart, we're putting things back together in ways to really make a more simplified version of them.